with the bank robberies, what was the most successful? Well, I suppose.
One I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got about 110,000 in 1990, which is about the equivalent of 700,000 now.
Wow.
You know.
G'day everyone, welcome back on Dudes with Distinction. Today we have Russell Manser with us. An Australian notorious bank robber, has spent 23 years in prison and now owns an organisation, The Voice of a Survivor.
Russell has kindly come onto our podcast to share his incredible life story and how he overcame the harsh adversity thrown at him. Please welcome Russell Manser.
How are you, Russell?
Yeah, good guys, really good. Been very busy. Been doing a few podcasts and a little bit in the media at the moment, which is keeping me flat out. So yeah, life's good.
Yeah, that's good. You have any new big things coming up that we should be on the lookout for? Or?
For my podcast, the Stick Up podcast, we're working on getting former Prime Minister Julia Gillard on there, and it'd be an opportunity for me to sort of thank her for introducing the Royal Commission Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse that changed my life.
Yep.
As a hero. This week we've interviewed Danny Green. A few weeks, Jeff Fennick. And, I'm loving the podcast side of things. I've been really busy with the Voice of a Survivor. It's a bit of a break for me to sort of do something a bit different, which is challenging, but that's also rewarding at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I suppose it's a great thing that you got going on. I was looking into it, but just for the people that don't know, what is the Voice of a Survivor?
Voice of a Survivor was basically an organisation that basically I planned whilst I was in prison. It's an organisation that helps survivors of institutional sexual and physical abuse go through the compensation process with the aim of ensuring that the clients are treated with dignity and respect by lawyers. Often lawyers, especially, the law profession isn't known for its integrity. So, we just ensure that any client that comes to us is being treated not like a commodity, but as a human being, and they're treated with dignity and respect that they deserve. They're not, these survivors of institutional abuses are very damaged people, and we aim to be part of the healing process that changes their lives and changes the trajectory of their lives and helps them create some good memories and sort of try to eliminate all of the bad ones. And yeah, it's such a rewarding work. I started it off in prison with with that. I had the vision from prison to do it, and I get out of prison at the end of a 4-year sentence and applied myself to it. Today, we have 16,000 clients. I employ 19 people. We work with 38 different law firms nationally, and it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done.
Yeah.
To kick us off, could we just get like a little bit of background information, like where you were brought up and like just a little short version of your life story?
Yeah, sure. Look, I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney at a place called Mount Druitt, working class area. We just mainly all the housing commission people lived there, blue collar factory type workers. So I grew up there. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. None of my family have ever engaged in any social behaviour. I was sort of the first. I was sort of the black sheep of the family. And growing up in those sorts of areas, you don't see the working man sort of getting too far ahead. And the criminals were treated like war heroes when they come home from prison. And it was sort of rock and roll. It's sort of like rock star sort of treatment. And I used to look at them and sort of thought them guys lived an exciting life, and it appealed to me from a young age, from an impressionable young age. And I aspired to be like these guys, looked like they were having fun, had, the best of everything, clothes, cars, and all that sort of stuff. And they didn't seem to be battling like the rest of the community. It didn't seem like they were in that struggle, and because that struggle looked tiring to me. The people around that were in the struggle looked really tired all the time, and the crims and everything like that looked fresh and alive. So that sort of stuff appealed to me.
You said you were
Yeah.
Pretty well-founded, well-structured family.
Yeah, I was. My family, as I said, were English immigrants come out from Liverpool, England, in 1965, and there was no domestic violence. There was no intergenerational transference as far as trauma goes in our family, and I was a pretty just working class people, mate. That were like the brothers and that were all getting trades, and his sister was a nurse, and I've just never seen it from them. No propensity for violence amongst any of them. Just working class people, just chasing the working class dream, I guess. And I had different plans, you know.
Yeah. What was the
what like got you into doing non-social acts? Like, was it like the mates you were hanging around with, or just like what you wanted?
It was a combination of a few things. It was a combination of man, I didn't want to be like that bloke at the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of winter, freezing his ass off and getting home at fucking 6 o'clock at night and just looking fucking miserable. That didn't appeal to me. That was one of the first steps. And then, I just seen that the criminals would go, in particularly bank robbers. Like everyone sort of, the thing is when you rob a bank, no one's not supposed to know, but everyone makes the assumption of, and everyone could read between the lines. Old mate's been out of jail a month and he's got a brand new car. He's got all the flash gear, like he's got houses decked out with all the good furniture, So you can make an assumption what he's been, he's been up to no good. I wanted to be like that. I just didn't want to struggle. I didn't want to battle. I didn't want to fucking be treading water from my whole life and been going nowhere. And you hear stories, you hear these people talk where they've been, in a state or overseas, like just going in a state, going into Queensland from out the suburbs, like sounded fucking continental, and just even hearing that, I just wanted to, I didn't want to be in that battle, man. I really didn't want to be in that struggle. As I said, it looked very, very tiring, and I started doing that, drive right, like I was car mad. Like any young fella, by the age of 14, 15, I was car mad. And I was joyriding in stolen cars, and it wasn't long before I got pinched for. We had a car chase at Parramatta and we got pinched and ended up back then in the court systems. You never got they had never had diversion programs or anything like that. It wasn't like you got warnings or anything like that. It was one strike and you were out and off you went to the boys' home. And it was all about these sentences they'd give you a sentence to deter you from future reoffending. And that never worked for no one that I ever came across.
Yeah, wow. So what was, apart from the all the car stuff, what was the first bank you actually robbed?
Oh, that fast forwarded. I've been into trouble a little bit at a time.
Right, okay. Obviously before that, then. Yeah, leading up to it and everything, pretty much. Yeah.
What was your first like big thing that got you in trouble? And is it like, I think you got sent to Derek Holmes? It's like your
Derek. Yeah, for a car steal, I went to Derek Boys' Home, and in Derek Boys' Home there was, as you could see on the Channel 9 60 Minutes show about sexual abuse that took place there, and I didn't escape that. It was just prolific sexual and physical abuse at that place, and unfortunately, I didn't escape that. And I left Derek with a pretty scarred up kid that, and all of this sort of, we're gonna sexually abuse you or physically abuse you and try to deter you from ever getting in trouble. That's all bullshit. Never worked. And all it done was created fucking damaged kids with fucking chips on their shoulder who felt like, who were sticking their finger up at the system and saying,
Yeah, so
and I was one of them.
15 when you got...
I was 15 at the time. Yeah, I was
15.
And what was that for a...
Car robbery, was it?
A car steal.
Yeah.
No, just a car steal. Just the car steal and the car chase. And the funny thing about that, I had that car stealing and everything like that, and I think I was 15, 16. I got 6 months locked up, and I got my license suspended for 3 years. Which was a bit crazy because I didn't even have a license. But anyway, whilst I was at Darrick, I just learned all for me. Darrick Boys, that was just a college of different how to steal different things and break into different things. And I was from the western suburbs of Sydney, and the inner city kids were way more advanced at their at their craft of being able to steal Porsches and break into sports stores and that sort of stuff. So I just come out of Darrick more knowledgeable. That's, if anything, more knowledgeable in regards to the crime, and that was always going to escalate after Darrick. But also seriously damaged, like mentally damaged, and spiritually, my spirit was sort of broken, and I had no intentions of going straight. I come out of there and all like the thought of the sort of having fun and that sort of escalated, and I got out. I fucking stole a Porsche. I stole a couple of Porsches.
Yeah, wow.
I stole a Porsche. I got pinched. I got a big chase over the North Shore of the Sydney, affluent area of Sydney.
Yep.
And it was the first time they ever used a police helicopter, and they chased us in that. Anyway, we got into Sydney Harbour, and again, we jumped out of the car chase. We had to jump out and run because we couldn't get away from the helicopter.
Yeah.
But, anyway, got pinched by water police. Went before the courts the next day. Judge fucking sentenced us and stipulated that we go to an adult prison, and which was just the biggest fuck up. It should have never happened. They weren't allowed to do it, but they did it anyway.
Yeah.
Sent us there, housed us at one wing at the Central Industrial Prison at Long Bay, which housed some of the worst sex offenders in the state at the time. So once again, we didn't escape the abuse. I was first introduced to heroin there, and
in jail, you were introduced to heroin. Did you say?
Yeah. I was in jail as a 16-year-old. So I wasn't good. Yeah. Introduced to heroin, and I knew heroin. What I come to realise was heroin was going to sort of fill that void, which had come into me because of the abuse, and man, I went fucking in a really. I left that jail, which was meant to be a deterrent sentence, in a really bad state, and addicted to heroin, and it took a long time.
Yeah. Did you do that by choice, or like what made you end up doing that in prison? Heroin.
The heroin. Oh, look, it was given to me by a perpetrator to fucking keep me quiet.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what's given to me. That's what they do. They get you to shut your mouth, and they'll fill you full of drugs or pills or whatever just to get you to shut up.
Yeah, and you came out of that prison wanting to rob banks or something, did you?
Yeah, I came out of the prison, and I learned that blokes had talked about how you go about robbing banks. I don't know if them blokes were any good at it, but so I come out, and it wasn't that time, but I got pinched for a couple of bank, and then ended up back in a Main Street prison. Then I learnt with some real bank robbers. I'd done 2 years in prison, and I got around some real serious bank robbers who sort of give me the education of bank robberies. After that 2 years, I got out. I was trying to go straight, couldn't do it. Robbed my first bank at 21 years old, and it fucking and the thing about when you do that, because you've got unlimited access to money, because you can rob any bank you wanted to. Your heroin habit escalated really big, so I ended up with some really big heroin habit. And I was only using heroin to block the mental torment that I'd gone through because of the abuse, the trauma. And anyway, long story short, ended up getting pinched for I think it was 3 banks initially, and then I went to court one day and escaped, and
so you
got
didn't
pinched up in the Northern Territory.
Yeah, right. So you didn't. Sorry for interrupting. You didn't escape from prison. You escaped from court. Was that right?
Yeah, I went to court and escaped from police custody, and punched them with the coppers and got away, and then got pinched up in the Northern Territory for another bank, and then but I really got tested. Like I was in jail there for about in jail in Darwin for about 14 months up there, and it was I really got tested. They used to test the riot squad on me. I used to punch them with the riot squad every day, and yeah, I used to punch them with them all the time, and really just fucking sort of with these people, their intentions to try to break my spirit, but they only made me stronger, you know.
Yeah.
I went through that. I ended up doing nearly 8 years on that sentence. I went in at 22 and got out when I was 30, and then I thought, you know, I was clean off the drugs, and I thought I had my life together, but I was just putting band-aids on the underlying issue of the abuse was never ever talked about or ever dealt with, and so long story short, you know, after I'd been out of jail for 6 years, and I had a pretty successful business. I had you know, 2 kids and a mortgage and that sort of thing, and then I just fucking returned back to using drugs, and I realised what it was. It was because I never dealt with the underlying issue of the you know, my troubles itself, and that was the abuse. But and it took me 10 years to sort of come good again, and my life changed when Julia Gillard introduced the Royal Commission to Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, and it created a platform for people like myself and many others to tell our story and begin the healing journey, and for people to believe us what had happened to us, and for people to establish maybe these guys ain't those bad people that you all point the finger at and call them horrible and animals and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's a reason for why these people are what they are, and you know, that was established through that Royal Commission. I was given, you know, proper trauma counselling, and I fucking, you know, it changed my life. Like today, my life's a lot different back then. You know, today life's really good. You know, I got a very successful business. I've got a, you know, relationship, beautiful partner, and you know, I'm described as being an asset to my community, and yeah, life's pretty good. You know, got so many work opportunities. I work for corrective services now in the prisons, and as an advisor on an advisory role. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great what you're doing.
I want to know more about the stories in jail. Some of the
Yeah,
worst
sure.
things you've seen in jail.
I've seen murders in jail. I think I've seen a rapist at Goulburn in about 1995 get stabbed to death, which was pretty bad. Like, people think, you know, people get what they deserve and everything like that, but it's still not good to watch someone get stabbed to death and watch someone beg for their life. I've seen copious amounts of stabbings and pretty fucking brutal ones where people were hospitalised and put on life support. And I've seen the screws really fucking bash the shit out of people. Often, while they're handcuffed, they're secured. They'll kick the shit out of them, put them in there. I just always seen that as a real fucking coward act, hitting someone while they got handcuffs on or something like that, and or skitch your dog on them or whatever, something like that. But I've seen 2 really bad murders. I've seen the Vietnamese kill one of their own, and that was brutal. And I've seen that rapist get stabbed to death. But other than that, you know, I was at Goulburn Prison, and Goulburn Prison was described as as little Bosnia, or as a war zone. And there's a type of prison you get back to your cell every night and you'd wipe your brow. You know, you go, oh, lucky that I made through that. You know, lucky I got through that. You know, because I made it through another day. It was just that type of a place. But those sorts of places severely traumatize you. You get pretty bad scars from those sort of places, you know, and that was part of my own. Like, you know, I was dealing with my own trauma, but I just kept on fucking getting. They kept on throwing other shovels of it on me from the prison trauma. And, you know, 23 years have been treated like a scumbag by those prison officers who are just the fucking lowest. Honestly, they are unemployable, mate. They're just they're the fucking people that the dole reject, and you know, they'll say that about other crims too, but they're just unemployable, man. When you just got someone who just the hardest job they're going to have, the hardest part of their job for the day is going to hand someone a toilet roll, and they still can't do it. They're fucking not much job. Beauty about that today, I'm playing a bit of a part in training them same people, you know, so that's rewarding.
I want to ask a question about, many people probably don't know, but what are screws?
Yeah, screws are called prison officers, and it's a long-winded fucking old history thing. I even forget where they got that terminology from. But screws are prison officers, and they're employed to maintain the security of the prison. They're employed to facilitate any rehabilitation courses. That's what they're mainly paid to do. They're made to unlock and put the prisoners back in, and they often think that they're employed for different purposes, and yeah. But anyway, well, I've got big problems with them guys because they create a lot of drama for they create a lot of trauma. They create a lot of trauma with their propensity for violence. They think that it's their job to bash people and treat people. In particular, the thing that really troubled me with them is how they would treat like prisoners, support people and families and everything like that. That's a big problem when they think that it's their job to punish them.
Yeah,
they want to punish them and deter them from supporting people. I don't want these people to have support. They want to isolate them and they want to make sure they don't get support. So, it's always it's their little trick. I don't know how you sort of get any joy out of being horrible to an 80-year-old lady or anything like that. It's I don't know what sort of person does that, but it's definitely an indication of what type of people they are to sort of do that. But there's some good ones, but they get isolated and ostracized and called names like the crim hater, and so they make it hard for them. And if anyone that tries to help, any like officer that tries to actually do their job, they try to fucking humiliate them. It's fucking ridiculous. They're a bunch of fucking school kids.
Yeah. I got a question. With your bank robberies, were you armed or was it like how did you pull it off?
Yeah, sometimes armed, but the for me the weapons weren't ever loaded. You know what I mean? I was always. That's just what I did. I didn't really want to fucking hurt anyone. That was my intentions, were never to ever hurt anyone. And what I did do, I realized that I learned from a young age that you're not gonna the intentions were never to hurt anyone. You know what I mean? And that was always my intentions. My intentions were never to hurt anyone. And I just I learned from old bank robbers and that you get in there, you try to minimize the trauma on people. You try to be just fucking keep it cool, calm, collect. You try to be polite. For instance, you go into a bank and say, "Look here, I'm here. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm just going to get this money. I'm going to get out of here. No one needs to be here. It's just fucking ridiculous. Not even your money. Get the money, get out, apologize on your way out." And that's why, I was described as the gentleman bank robber. But in saying that, I'm not trying to minimise the trauma that I caused those people. Those people thought, that fucking I was armed and I would have shot him and I would have killed him and I would have done all sorts of bad things. But, I'll never, ever take away from that. I'll never minimise anything like what I've done with shit. It was, I say this, I reckon, screws that, that fucking prison officers that handcuff people and kick them in the head are fucking cowards. People would say the same things to me. Pulling a gun on an unarmed person is an act of a coward. And people are right to say that. I'll own that. Not a problem. And they're right. But it's something I don't do these days. And I'd like to think I'm a long way away from that. I'd like to think that the good work I've done in the 5 years I've been out sort of balanced out the bad stuff I done all those years ago,
With the bank robberies, what was the most successful, I suppose, heist?
One I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got about 110,000 in 1990, which is about the equivalent of 700,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you spend on that?
Oh, mainly drugs and still. Look, I was always a kid that liked life, nice things. So I had a nice car, nice motorbike, nice unit to live in, and copious amounts of drugs. Because like heroin itself became my companion. Everywhere I went, it came with me, and I didn't leave home without it. Didn't go on holidays without it. I didn't go anywhere without it.
Yeah. What was that? What was the feeling like just after doing it, and you're on the run, and you don't know if you're already been, if people are coming for you. Yeah.
Well, it's really like people think easy money. There's no such thing as easy money because you become full of anxiety because you start replaying it over your head 1,000 times. Did you make any mistake? And back then, when I was robbing banks in that manner, there was some pretty heavy duty coppers around, like Roger Rogerson and fucking that were going around killing blokes for robbing banks. And them coppers back then, they were gangsters. They used to they wanted to catch you robbing a bank so they could rob you. So, they could take, who's going to listen to a bank robber when a bank robber says, oh, the coppers robbed me? They're going to go, oh, bullshit. That's what they were doing. They were really, really bad fucking people who would just rob you for your cash, you know what I mean? Like, well, what they thought was their cash, and so, yeah, man, I don't recommend it. I didn't recommend it because it's just a shit way to live. You're always looking over your back if you're being watched, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was on another podcast I was listening to. You said you're out in the Northern Territory, like far out back in Northern Territory, still on the run.
Yeah, I got pinched out in Northern Territory.
Yeah. So what was that? What was that all? Was that the last time?
When I escaped, what happened when I escaped? That's what I got pinched up in the Northern Territory. I got pinched for robbing a bank up there. I escaped and got pinched for robbing another bank up in Darwin, which I ended up doing about 3 years in prison up there. She's a brutal place, the old Northern Territory. I'll tell you what, them rednecks fucking love a bit of violence, they were just giving it to me. I was used as a punching bag up there, but part and parcel. That's just what you got to accept. That these people think that perpetrating violence on people is going to teach them not to be violent. Fucking brain surgeons, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was your highest point and lowest point in your life?
Lowest point in the life is when I was up in Darwin, my brother committed suicide, and and I couldn't attend the funeral. I couldn't comfort my mum or anything like that, and it made me reflect my life and where I wanted to go with my life. And I tell you what, I come to the belief that I didn't want to spend my whole life in prison and waste them rotting away and being at the hands of these fucking shitbag public servants that fucking know nothing, that are going nowhere and telling me how to live my life and trying to punish me through their fucking grubbiness. And so that was a big changing point for me, you know what I mean, turning my life around. And then, the next thing was eventually telling my story to the Royal Commission Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, which changed my life. And I found my purpose, and my purpose was helping other survivors of institutional abuse begin the healing journey. So when I found my purpose in life, I think when I truly realized what my purpose in life was, I think, I guess it was just a fucking aha type moment. And I don't know, it was relief, and it's been a pretty good ride since. And that's been one of the things. But losing my brother and was pretty heavy. It was pretty heavy, and finding my purpose was pretty fucking nice. And I do a lot of work today, and the work I love is so fucking rewarding. It's just so rewarding what we do and how we help people and the feedback we get. And good, man, really good.
Yeah, it's great to see change, which is really good. So through what years would you say were the lowest times? Like, obviously you've just said then, but what were those years? Was it that end during prison?
Yeah, for sure. Being in prison and looking down the barrel at what was eventually a 15-year jail sentence was pretty low, you know what I mean? And I don't know, even out here, when the trauma flares up, when my PTSD shit, doesn't matter if I've got a Ferrari or a fucking Lamborghini, all that material shit means nothing. I can go through times now where I can get caught up in pretty bad depression.
Yeah.
What I do know these days is how to fight my way out of it. I know the coping mechanisms, and I know how it's affecting me. I know the signs when it's coming, and in the early days when I was just really lost in that trauma, were really bad days. But today I'm far from that. I've done a lot of healing. I've done a lot of work on myself. Like, I've done serious work on myself, and so life's really good today. It never always used to be this way, and I think I'm close to being fucking happy. I'm close to being pretty content, and you know, and a place to be pretty content. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
When your life becomes dedicated to being in the service of others, I'm telling you, your fucking happiness is fucking right near you, you know, and your contentment and your peace and all of those things that us humans strive to be are pretty close near us, you know.
So, was some of the things? Did you go to? Did you talk with people, or did you even venture into like religion, or how'd you get?
No religion. Look, the Royal Commission give me proper trauma counselling, and they give me proper trauma counselling, which I got like 4, maybe 5 years of proper hardcore trauma counselling from a trauma specialist, and so you know that was really good, and you know, and it really made sense of everything for me, and that's what I was always lacking. They would have given me that years ago. I much would have spent 23 years in prison. You know, they would have given that to me as a kid after being abused. I mostly wouldn't have spent a day in prison, you know, because it made sense of it all. But unfortunately, the powers that be always thought that they had to teach me a lesson on something. They had to give me a hope-ending sentence. They had to fucking punish me, they bashed me, perpetrate fucking extreme violence on me to try teaching me a lesson. And all it done was amplified and fucking made me even worse. But when they did the right thing and what they were meant to do in the first place, things got all right, man. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when,
yeah. It's so. Would you say that overall times have drastically changed since when you first got put into prison, then to when you came out, and the help you got and received?
Yeah, for sure. My life's different today. But I invested, like, I ended up getting a compensation payout. I invested a lot in myself. That compensation payout, I never bought cars or anything like that. I bought what they should have fucking done for me, and that's that, you know, the trauma stuff and counselling and proper therapy, you know what I mean? Proper therapy, not this fucking, you know, that's what I'd done with my compensation. I also, when I got my compensation claim, I invested in setting up the Voice of a Survivor with the aim of helping other survivors go through the healing process, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yep. It's good to see that actually something has changed, especially Royal Commission. Was it totally different back then? Like they didn't care, or?
Yeah, they didn't care, mate. They didn't care. We live in a world where we got fucking prime ministers fucking visiting pedophiles in prison and saying it's not that bad. Like, we've got to change the culture of all this. We've got to change. We live in a fucking world where fucking these politicians are brainwashing fucking numbskulls into believing that bikies pose a bigger threat to pedophiles do. We've got these laws, these draconian laws that are protecting fucking pedophile. Like these bikie laws they have, right, where the bikies not allowed to associate with each other, and they can run in on bikies' house looking for drugs and all that sort of thing. Those laws, the biggest beneficiaries of those laws are fucking pedophiles, you know, because they create. Let's face it, the pedophiles are creating the next drug addict. They're not creating the next fucking person propensity for violence. They're creating the next fucking criminal, you know, the next bikie even. You know, it's just crazy, man. We live in a fucking sick world where these people are so highly protected.
Yeah, gosh.
So you know how in Derek Holmes or something, was it the other boys in the homes that was doing the sexual assault, or the screws?
No, it was the officers. Yeah, the screws. They were doing it. Yeah.
And did it happen to like a lot of the boys that went in there?
Yeah, nearly everyone. Nearly everyone.
Are you in contact with like any of them people anymore? Or?
Yeah, heaps of them. We're on heaps of them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, heaps of guys. You know. Yeah, it's like your return war veterans, right? It's like you're bonded by this abuse that you suffered. Like those war veterans go to jail and that they experience a lot of trauma. So do we. So we're bonded by that. A lot of us stay in contact and support each other.
Yeah. So you were in prison with Ivan Milat, is that right?
I was in prison with Ivan Milat. Yeah, I was in Maitland prison with him in 1997. I didn't like, I don't know. I look at a bloke like him. Okay, he might pose a threat when you got your back turned to him, and he's got a fucking shotgun in his hand. There's no shotguns in prison, so the threat's eliminated. So he's just a no one. Like 5'8", 60 kilos. I would have just, I'm 6 foot, and I would have been 100 kilos. I would have monstered him. Like, I'm not trying to make out I'm a fucking big tough guy, but he posed no physical threat to anyone in there, really.
Yeah.
But he was sort of, I don't know.
Did he run his mouth or?
No, none of that. None of that. He just knew how to play the system, Ivan. He was a fucking psychopath. Don't know how to do things like that. But he walked around with a big dopey smile on his face. He seemed very fucking jovial at all times. I never, he was always up for a laugh and a joke and that sort of thing. And he was always thinking that everything was quite funny. And he, especially if a violent act took place, you'd see him sort of getting a giggle and getting his rocks off from that. But nothing spectacular, Ivan. I didn't at any stage feel threatened by him. I don't think anyone else felt threatened by him. You know what I mean? But put a gun in his hand is a whole different story, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. One more question: with the pedophiles and that in prison, do they get like a flogging off?
Nah, none of that.
That ain't?
None of that. You can't get to them. You can't get, like, what do people think? Oh, yeah, when they go there, hear all of these stories about they get bashed and that. Mate, those screws, those pedophiles, they'll jump in front of you and they'd rather get kicked than allow you to hit one of them. They protect them so badly, and that's the problem. Screws let them people think that they're fucking, then there's nothing wrong with them because they're so highly protected. So the pedophiles sitting there and go, they point the finger at the criminals and go, at least I'm not like you. I'm not that bad. I'm not as bad as you. No, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. And it's really, really crazy, man. It's crazy how the lengths that the prison officers will go to protect them, and the misconception that the public have that they're highly bashed and treated bad because they're not. I'll tell you that now. That shocks people. No, I never seen it. I never seen one getting bashed. I never seen them getting what they deserved.
Yeah, wow. Was the prisons back then sort of segregated into groups and gangs and?
No, nothing like that. Racial segregation came in 1995, 1996, and Goulburn was the first one to bring in racial segregation. But no, not at all. Different, and back then there wasn't that many bikies in there around either. So, no, not really. Everyone just mixed. Everyone mixed, and basically nearly everyone got on. And then the race wars kicked off in 95, and it was fucking, everyone was just fighting amongst each other. But I think that was really fucking controlled by the screws. I think they wanted that to happen, and they sort of engineered it to happen. But other than that, man, it's it's just I've never really got many fights at all.
Yeah. And was the I don't know if you call it, but the ward is that right? The ward, or the head of the jail, the head bloke of the jail. Did he know about the screw?
Superintendent.
Did he know what, was it just total corruption, or was it hid pretty well?
Of course it was. Yeah, of course it was. It was like everyone's in on it. So much. The violence and that sort of stuff. Everyone, I mean, I was at Parramatta Jail and used to be a superintendent there called Harry Duff, and out of them all, he was a fucking good bloke because one, he was a drunk and he didn't give a fuck. And, there's legendary stories about Harry Duff, just legendaries. He knew, his jail was full of drugs. He didn't give a fuck because that jail was full of drugs and no one ever played up. No one bashed each other. Everyone wanted to stay there. So the jail ran itself,
Yeah.
But he was a bad drunk, Harry. Very funny guy. Ended up getting a sack for some sort of corruption or something like that. But unfortunately, people like that, they run a jail fucking way better than these hardheads that want to bash everyone and create as much trauma as they can,
Yeah. If I could leave you one question, is there anything in your life you've regretted or?
Oh, for sure. And I regretted not talking about the abuse that happened to me earlier. I think I live with a lot of anxiety about that. And I just wish I would have told it a lot earlier and my life would have been way better, you know?
Yeah.
I would have been way better.
Right,
Russell.
we really appreciate that Zoom call. That was really interesting and good to hear.
No worries, guys.
Definitely we'll get this video post and we'll leave your website. Is it The Voice of a Survivor?
Yeah, www.thevoiceofasurvivor and the Stick Up podcast.
Sweet
easy.
as. Thank you so much
Awesome
for that,
Russell.
No worries, guys. Take care.
See you later.
She got that wop in the way that she uses saliva on top. She come with a mop. I need to stop. Been out here rocking the game with these features. It's over for niggas.